Hey guys, this is Ashley from the South Houston Library, and today I'm going to show you how to create a table on Microsoft Access. And in order to get here, I went to the Windows Start menu and I searched for Access and I clicked on it. And as you can see here, Access has many different templates, but for today we're going to click on Blank Database. And then it asked me to name my new database. I'm going to name mine Fundraiser. And then if you click this button right here, you can choose where on the computer you would like to save your file. And I want to save mine particularly under my documents. And then I'm going to click OK. And then I'm going to click on Create. You can see here, whenever you open a blank database, a table is already made for you. And what tables do on Microsoft Access is that they collect and store information in order to create your own database. And so tables are made out of columns or fields. Those are these along here. And what fields do is that they define the kind of data that the column must save. So, for example, you're going to tell Access, or we're going to tell Access what kind of data each column is going to have and how we would like it to look. And the table is made out of columns or fields and also rows, which go along here. Those are also called records, and those are a single sample of data. So after you create your fields, you're going to start inserting each sample of data in the records. Okay, and so here we're in the Fields tab, and the first button over here is called View. And so there's two views that we use most often on Microsoft Access. Right now we're on Datasheet View, and it kind of looks like Microsoft Excel, looks like a spreadsheet. And there's also another type of view which is called Design View, and this is the one I prefer to use whenever I am making my fields at the beginning, because it lets me work more with the design of it. And so before I can go to Design View, I have to name my table. So I'm going to name it Table Students and click OK. And this is Design View, and this is where we're going to name our fields and we're going to define what type of data it will have. So my first field, I'm going to name it Student ID, because what this table is going to have, it's going to have the information about all my students that are doing a fundraiser. And here you define what type of data your field is going to have. And so there's short text, long text, number, date and time, currency. And whenever you're deciding what data type your field is going to be, you want to be as specific as possible. So currency, you would use it if you're working with money. Auto number, what we'll be using for student ID. And the cool thing about auto number is that it automatically assigns a number to everything every time you enter something into that field. Yes and no, it's going to be a little checkbox, and you either check it for yes or leave it blank for no. OLE object, what that does is that it stores pictures, videos, and audio. Hyperlink, if your field is going to have hyperlinks, if you click on them, it will take you to the page. Attachment, oops. Attachment is like if you want to actually store like a picture or a file in your database. Calculated, what it does, it's not letting me really click on it, but calculated, what it does is that data is created based on a formula. And so for this one in particular, like I said before, we're going to be using auto number because I wanted to automatically assign a number to it. And the next field I'm going to create, my next column will be first name. And so here we're going to enter the first names of my students. And we're going to leave it as short text. And then this field is going to be last name, short text, email addresses of the students. And I'm going to leave that one as short text too. And and then the next one will be phone number. Okay, and then this one, I'm going to change my my data type to large number, and as you can see down here, you can do more with your data type. So if you can be more specific with the data that's going to go into your field, and so format, you can format your whatever goes into that field a specific way. So for example, if I put this greater than sign, everything that goes into the every row that I enter, every record that I enter is going to be uppercase. If I click on the less than sign, everything will be lowercase. And so you can format the information a particular way. And in order to find out what these symbols are, you can click on F1 and it'll give you more information about these symbols. And then the next one is called decimals, so the decimal places. So this one you can tell Excel how many decimal places you would like to see, and so that will come in handy whenever you do calculator fields. Input mask is a pattern, so if you would like the information that goes in there to follow a certain pattern. So for example, if for phone number, we would like it to look like this. And 9, all it signifies is any number from 0 to 9. And if you would like to know more about different symbols, like I said before, you can click on F1 to find what other input mask symbols, what they stand for. And so 9, it just means any number. So the 9 will not allow whoever is entering the data to put in, let's say, a letter. So it can only be a number. And the first 3 numbers are going to be around parentheses. And then I'm going to do this. Okay. And a caption is just if you'd like to enter more information. It's really up to you if you like to add that. Default value. So if whenever you're entering data, you would like, if there's somebody does not enter a record for that, if you would like it to have a default value, then you can do that. Let's say you're entering in the state where the student lives, and let's say the person does not enter anything. If you would like it to automatically be Texas, you can enter that in there. Valid, I'm not going to really go over this. And then required, that's like if this whenever somebody's entering data for a student, it requires a phone number. So the person cannot go on unless they enter a phone number. So you can do that for any of these. Let's say you don't want the person to be able to, or you yourself, if you're the one entering data, to go on unless you enter a first name. You would go and change that for that field. Okay, and so I'm going to save that, and then I'm going to go to datasheet view to show you what it looks like to input a phone number with that input mask. So I'm going to switch to datasheet view. Yes, I would like to save my table. And here we're in datasheet view. As you can see, it looks like a spreadsheet. And here, as you can see, if I try to enter a text, it will not work. So I can only enter a number. Oops. So it automatically did an auto number of 1, and then I'm going to enter some data. Okay, and then tab. Oops. And then I'm going to enter a phone number. And as you can see, if I try to input text, it will not allow it because I put that number 9 there. Okay. And so there I entered, so this is a row, I entered a record, I entered a student to my table. And so I'm going to right click here. Oops. And if I right click here where it says table student, so the name of your table, you can save it from there, and you can also close it from there. And so I'm going to close it because I'm going to create another table, and so I'm going to go here to the create tab, and then I'm going to create a table. And Just like before, I like to design my table in design view just because I have more options, and I'm going to name this table sales table. And so what this table is going to have is that it's going to have my how much each student has sold. So I'm going to name this one student ID. And as you can see here, there's a little key, and it's called a primary key. And a primary key on Microsoft Access is like an identifier. So like I have more than one table, and your database will probably have more than one table. And if you'd like the two tables to be able to talk to each other, you will have this identifier to kind of connect the two tables. So for example, if you create a query, which is like a question on Microsoft Access, and the question is asking something that has information from both tables, instead of having to repeat all the information from the students table onto my sales table, I don't have to duplicate the information. All I have to duplicate is the primary key. And so that's why it has that key right here. And normally the primary key, it has to have the exact same data type. The only exception on both tables, the only exception is if if you have an auto number on one of them, then it can't be a number on the other one. And now that I think about it, I'm gonna reopen my my table of students, and I'm gonna make sure that first student ID is a primary key, and it doesn't have the key here, so I'll definitely want to label it as a primary key. So I'm going to go to design tab, and then I'm going to click on primary key, and now it has that key here also on my other table, which is the student's information. And then I'm going to close it. And now here I'm going to go to design view so I can add my different fields. And so to this table, to my sales table, my first field is student ID, and that's what's going to connect me to the other table. And then my other field is going to be called chocolates sold, and this is going to have this data type is going to be numbers. And then this one, my next field, is going to be the due date for the fundraiser for that particular student, and I'm going to set that one as date or time data type. And now I'm going to right click on the sales table, and I'm going to close it and save it. Yes. And so like I said before, sometimes you're going to need to build relationships between the tables. So I'm going to go to database tools and click on relationships, and then I'm going to add both of my tables here. And so in order to connect the two tables with the student ID, the primary key, you have to click on one primary key and then click and drag towards the next one on the table. And then something pops up and it asks you some questions, and then you either check them or not. And where it says enforce referential integrity, what that means is if you click on it, it forces the tables to stay the same, so consistency between the tables. Cascade update, that means that if you change information on one table, it'll update to the other table. And cascade delete, it's similar to that one. If you delete a record on one table, it'll update for the other one. And so for now, I'm not going to click on any of those. I'm just going to click create. And now there's a connection between the two tables by the primary key. So now on my sales table, I don't have to repeat the first and the last name and the email address and the phone number of the students. If I ask a query, which is a question, like for example, if I ask, okay, who sold the most chocolate, I can get the information from my sales table the chocolate sold, and I can get the student ID, and then the two tables, since they're connected, it can go and get the first and last name of the student from the other table. So that's what's pretty cool about tables, these relationships that you can form on Microsoft Access. It makes it easy for you to look through that information. So hopefully you like this video. If you have any questions, please comment down below.